Record on this computer. Yes, we are recording. I want to welcome Dr. Qiana Cutts to my class, and I am excited that we get to talk to you today, Dr. Cutts, about your writing habits and your writing rituals. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you. So as we begin our conversation, I thought I would get started by asking you, what is your writing habit?
Well, I've been actually working on doing a writing ritual that's more consistent than what I have in the past. Sporadic writer, which means for me that sometimes, I write at night, sometimes I write in the morning. But then I started to think back, how can I be most productive? And I remember when I did, I think I went to a coffee shop every day at like 7 a.m. and I stayed there from like 7 to 5 for probably a month or so. Like every day, that was all that I did. So for me, coming up with a specific writing ritual where I say to myself, I'm going to get up at this specific time, or I'm going to set aside specific, is absolutely mandatory. Because if not, I'll talk myself out of writing, and I find all these things to do around the house instead of writing. So I try to make sure that I set a time and stick to that time. And as of late, it has been more in the morning. I'm getting up around 4:35 a.m. and I have class at 10. So I'm writing from about 5 or so until about 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. When you write, are you in any specific, like, do you like to be in a specific spot at a coffee shop? Do you listen to music, or you listen to white noise? How are you writing?
Yes, I have music, coffee, or something warm to drink. Every now and then a glass of wine, but mostly coffee. And I have to be at a table or at a desk or something like that. I've tried to, I don't know how people, sitting in the bed or sitting on the sofa. I can read in those spaces, but if I'm going to write, I have to be in a space where I'm forced to sit up straight and not be comfortable and just really hammer out. Yeah. And the coffee can't be too loud. So it's so interesting because a friend of mine told me that she said, you're really picky about coffee shops. And I am. Like, I love coffee shops with a nice ambiance. Starbucks works every now and then, but I mostly like little small coffee shops that aren't really popular or just aren't really populated by a lot of people. And I know this sounds bad, but I don't like coffee shops that has a lot of kids in them. Not because I don't like kids, but because then I just want to sit there and stare at the kids and say, oh, they're so cute. So I do a lot of things to make sure that I can minimize my distractions. But music is definitely a staple in that. So once I get, the outside environment organized and I put my headphones in, I'm ready to go.
So when you are listening to music, is there a particular type of music that you're listening to?
Yes, it's so funny you should ask that. I was just having this conversation. When I'm writing poetry, I most often listen to a lot of older music or R&B or indie type music. I absolutely love Donny Hathaway and Etta James. So give me those two artists and I can write poetry all day. I'm writing academic work or grant applications and things of that nature, I listen to trap music. I listen to a lot of trap music, a lot of rap, a lot of hip hop, because I like to stay upbeat while I'm writing those things, those types of pieces. Whereas with poetry, I'm really trying to access that emotional side. So I guess maybe that's why I listen to it.
Excellent. I lost your video feed. There we go. We're good.
There we go.
Yeah, so that's really cool because when I listen to music with words, I get distracted in the words. I want to sing along and I want to just I'm gonna be bopping around. I'm like, there's no writing happening. I'm partying in my head.
Yeah, and that's strange because I can now sometimes I'm able to listen to the radio and watch television and write, and I can just do all three and kind of know what's going on in all three spaces, I have a hard time with silent. I used to teach K-12, and even now with my undergrad students, when it's time for them to take final exams, I have a really hard time sitting through the silence, because a lot of times the final exams are like 2 hours, and some of them make a full hours, and so it's silent for 2 hours. So I struggle with quiet. I don't like a whole lot of noise, but I like a little soft noise. I like to hear something all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, when um, when you're writing, and especially when you're doing qualitative work, what my students struggle most with is thinking about how to pull all the things together. So the representation piece is difficult for them, you know. So to represent people's lives and experiences at the same time thinking with some sort of framework, theoretical, analytical, methodological, some sort of framework, that's where they have a harder time, because you know they don't have prior writing experience that have trained them for this. How have you negotiated that in your own right?
Well, when I actually when I did my dissertation, I think at that time it was 2009. So I think at that time I was one of the first students there to actually do autoethnography. And it was a negotiation, because people were like, what is this? Why is it relevant? How is it relevant? You know, all those questions that you get. So for me, I just had to stick to the this is personal and this is where I connect those two. And it was also interesting because I have a background in English. My undergraduate degree and my master's is in English and English education. So I spent so much time trying to figure out, and sometimes I still struggle with it, even though I've been doing it for years now, how to how to put together and know that this is good work. And so that's definitely one of the things that I would say for your students is we first have to divorce ourselves or kind of get ourselves out of the mindset that is one way to represent someone's words. There's one way to represent writing. And a lot of what we learn, even in our doc programs in terms of writing, is very much disconnected from what I feel like we'd be doing in writing qualitative work. So that's one of the things that I had to do, and I'm still doing it, because you're trained that way. You're trained that way to be very disconnected from the writing, and it never felt right for me, because with me being an English major, it's like, well, this is how I write. Why does this not work well in this particular setting? And I understand that there are different ways to write for different settings, but when you're representing someone's lives, someone's words, I feel like that you have to stick to that authenticity. So for me, it was just knowing that this is right is number one. Because what I like to tell my students is that when you haven't done your homework, when you haven't done your reading, when you haven't done your research, and you go to your professor, your chair, whomever, it's really easy for that person to pursue to think differently about writing, or to write about a different topic or what have you, because you haven't done the homework, so you don't have the confidence. So have the confidence in knowing that representing people's words with a level of authenticity and that you would want someone to represent your words is absolutely important, but then also be open to the guiding from someone who has broken barriers, such as yourself, who has broken barriers in terms of how we feel like qualitative writing should look.
Yeah. One of the things, those of my students who write autoethnography, I think there are two big struggles for those who do autoethnography at a doctoral level. I mean, first of all, I'm very proud of that, because I find autoethnography in qualitative research is the hardest form of writing and research. You know, it the easier it is to read, the harder it is to write. You know, so and to create those resonant images through words is not easy. You know, so what I find people find themselves challenged by is how do I structure the autoethnography? Like what does it look like? Even if they have permission to structure it anyway, they want. What does it look like? And the other part is where and how do I insert all the academic stuff, because the machine wants to make sure that they know the academic stuff, you know? So, what kind of advice or tips do you want to maybe share with our students when doing autoethnography that would be helpful for them to negotiate these questions?
Honestly, one of the ways that I was able to insert the academic stuff that people want is I did it after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, I wrote first. I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And that's why I'm going back to read what I wrote after engaging in the literature a little bit. And ironically, I was able to see, oh, well, this goes here, or this particular author should be cited here. So I think when that for me is to just write first and then come back and plug in the citations. For me, it was more authentic because it was really me. This was me, and I think had I done it the other way, I would have been led so much more by the literature and the citations and concerning myself with that I would have lost the autoethnographic piece of it. Mm-hmm. So for me, I would just say for your students, just write the autoethnography first. Get to the heart of what it is that you're trying to talk about regarding the autoethnography and let it flow. And don't think about including the literature at first. But then as you start to get the hang of it, come back to the literature and you'll see that information absolutely will fit where it needs to.
Nice, nice. So what do you do when you're stuck? Do you ever get stuck?
Yes, I Netflix and chill.
That's good. That's awesome.
That's absolutely what I do. I will, if I get frustrated and stuck, I find me a good Netflix series or a movie on Netflix. I love Netflix documentaries. Also love, I don't know why, but lately I've been watching a lot of foreign films on Netflix or films with subtitles. So when I feel like I just can't write anything else, I'll just take a break and watch a movie, or I'll clean, which usually that's part of my writing ritual. I mentioned it earlier, but that's part of my writing ritual anyway. I have to have a clean space. So if I get to a point to where I'm stuck, I'll clean. I'll do the additional cleaning. I start cleaning baseboards, or I'm going to clean up closets. In my mind, I feel like I'm still being productive, and then that also gives me time to think about why I'm stuck.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. What are you doing to up your game? What are some of the things you do to up your game?
One is getting rid of this year. One. And two things. I've been writing a lot lately with poetry and using interviews and focus group information and pulling it in or presenting as poems. So things that I have started to do for like the past month or so, every other day I read two pieces. One is it's Audre Lorde's Poetry is Not a Luxury. Mm-hmm. I read this every day. It's only about 3 pages, 2-3 pages, but I read absolutely every day. So this sit down and have my coffee. Let me read this again. At some point, I'll probably be able to recite it from memory. And then there's also a piece that I have up in my office and then also here up at home by Qiana Cutts at University of Mississippi. He has it's a blog piece or an essay. We are not good enough not to practice. And I just keep that in my head and I pull that out and read it when I need to. And he just talks about how no matter how good we are, no matter how much we have written, we're still not good enough not to practice. So that's what I try to engage to, these people whose writing I admire or who say things that I know that I need to, get that blockage out of my way and push myself to the next level.
Hey, that sounds great. So what I want to do is to conclude our conversation I want to maybe list 3 of your work that people can read, and I want to feature that. So, what would be your recommendation for 3 of your work that I can recommend to my students to read?
3, absolutely your book.
No, my
Which
book, your book. I want.
oh, I was gonna say,
Yours.
because I just got your, and I was gonna tell you that at first. I just received your book in the department the other day,
And so
so
which one, the
haven't had
comparative
to
higher
read it.
education or the qual one?
The qualitative research,
Okay,
the
okay,
method. Yes,
okay,
I just got that one.
okay.
And so I'm excited to get into that. What from my stuff can I read? Well, I do have a book. It's a book of poetry.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's funny because I've been to, people at the university have asked me, oh, well, we don't have a copy up here, or we don't have a copy in the library. And again, it's that thing of saying, oh, yeah, this is academic work, because anything about it. This is my book. It's a book of poems, and I absolutely love it. It's my first. It was one of those books where I couldn't wait for anyone else to get it out, so it's a self-published, and working on a one now. Hopefully, be out pretty soon by a publisher. We'll see. We're trying to shop that around and see what happens. But then you said, and what else?
2 more.
That I've written.
Yes.
So there's the book. Actually, it's been a while, but I'm finally getting to the place where I am taking my dissertation. Once still written on topic, and I'm taking my dissertation and turning that into a book. So hopefully within the next year and a half or so, that'll be out on the shelves.
Okay.
And then do I have a copy here? It's in my mother's house. A copy in a text that was edited by Dr. Stephanie Evans at Clark Atlanta University on Black women's wellness. I think I do.
Okay.
And I can do that. It is at my mother's house. I wanted her to read it. And then there's also have a chapter in a text for being queer in the South. It's by Gina, she's the editor of that, and it's called Queer South Rising.
Okay.
And then there's another who's actually, I think, in press right now, edited by Dr. Bettina Love, and Dr. Venus Evans. It's going to be called the Lauryn Hill Reader. So we're really excited about that.
Okay. I might reach out to you to get me some of the chapter PDFs. It might not be something that I might readily have access to. So I'll reach out to you for the chapter PDF so that my students can have that for the Black Women's Wellness and the Queer South Rising, and then maybe the chapter from Dr. Love's book as well, and then definitely your poetry book. So I can feature those.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Absolutely. I'll send this fact.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, and congratulations. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes. Thank you.
Good.